microphone is on, the room settles, and today we enter one of the most emotionally loaded, politically charged, professionally complex topics in language education: teacher identity. Not the polished version we put on CVs, or the labels HR teams slot us into. I'm talking about the identity that lives deep in our bones, the one shaped by accents that we've been prized for or mocked for, the one shaped by policies we never chose, the one shaped by childhood, geography, privilege, and struggle. Today, we're diving into the lived experience of being a native teacher, a non-native teacher, and every hybrid identity that exists in between. We have discussed these type of topics before. If you want to actually listen a little bit more, you can actually go back to the episode where I talk with this wonderful teacher, Anna. She presented really good ideas there. She just exposed this narrative. So if you want to listen a little bit more about it, do not hesitate. Go a little bit back on the episodes. You will find it. So today I want to approach this conversation as honestly as possible. Because if we can't be honest here, in this space where educators gather to reflect on who we are, where can we be honest? So, as I always say, sit down comfortably, grab yourself a coffee, and let's get started.
Woo! Let's go!
Teacher identity is something most training programs barely touch. We are taught methodologies, we are taught lesson planning, assessment literacy, classroom management, but we are rarely taught how to navigate being a Peruvian teacher in Japan, a Chinese teacher in Brazil, a Turkish teacher in the United States, a Brazilian teacher in Dubai, an Ecuadorian teacher in China, a South African teacher in Argentina, or a Spanish teacher living in Poland, Filipino teacher teaching thousands of students online across the world. We are never prepared for the reality that the first thing many people judge about us is not our methodology, not our lesson design, not the progress our students make. It's our passport, our accent, our skin, our name. And whether we like it or not, these things shape our professional identity long before we even introduce ourselves. But let's zoom out for a moment. Before we talk about discrimination, bias, stereotypes, injustice, and yes, we're going to talk about all of that, let's define what we're dealing with. Teacher identity is a multi-layer phenomenon. It's not one thing. It's an ecosystem. It's the combination of linguistic history, cultural background, training and professional development, experience as learners, classroom stories, educational values, emotional journey, struggles and triumphs, in our daily interactions with students, colleagues, and institutions. When people hear native versus non-native teacher, they think the debate is about accent or grammar knowledge. That's the superficial layer. Underneath, what we actually have is a conversation about power. Power to access opportunities, to influence, to be recognized, even power to belong. Identity has always followed power. And the ELT world, let's just tell it like it is, has never been neutral. Historically, the field developed around English-speaking countries exporting English, the British Council, American culture programs, former colonial links, economic privilege, globalization. English became a commodity, and native speakers became symbols of authenticity. Many of those narratives have faded, but the system they built still shapes hiring practices today. And I've said this many times. Native speakers never ask to be put on a pedestal. The system put them there. And non-native teachers never ask to be treated as second class. The system pushed them there. Identity is something we carry, but it's also something placed upon us. And that's where the real friction begins. Because identity is not static. A teacher raised in Mexico but trained in Cambridge. A teacher from Iran who spent 15 years in Australia. A Nigerian teacher with multilingual fluency across English, Igbo, Yoruba, and French. A Korean teacher raised in Canada. A Russian who studied English literature for 10 years. A Colombian who speaks English with clarity and power but doesn't sound like Hollywood and doesn't need to. Where do these teachers fit into the native versus non-native binary? The truth is simple. They don't. Because the binary was never capable of capturing reality. Let's step into the real stories. The stories teachers readily say it out loud. There's the non-native teacher who gets rejected for jobs before they even interview. Because the job posting says, native speakers only. There's the native teacher who feels guilty because they were selected over someone who was objectively more qualified. There's the bilingual teacher who constantly wonders if they should sound more native. There's the teacher whose accent reflects their childhood, and they're proud of it, until a student says, "You don't sound like a real English teacher." Jeez. Identity is fragile until we learn how to anchor it. And the anchoring begins with this uncomfortable truth. Native does not mean better. Non-native does not mean inferior. Identity is built, not inherited. A native speaker does not automatically know how to teach grammar. Many don't even know what the present perfect is. A non-native teacher does not automatically struggle with fluency. Many speak with exceptional mastery, clarity, and pedagogical expertise that surpasses what native speakers bring. And yet, the market keeps reinforcing old illusions. So let's go deeper, not philosophically, but practically. What actually shapes a teacher's identity in real classrooms? Students. Students are the mirror that reflect our identities back to us. When a student comes to you and says, "Teacher, I finally understood the past continuous because of your explanation," that becomes part of your identity. When a student says, "I practiced my speaking because I felt safe with you," that becomes part of your identity. Or when a student tells you, "You inspire me to learn English because you're also learning languages," that becomes part of your identity. Identity is relational. It grows through connection. One of the most overlooked advantages of non-native teachers is that they share the learner journey. They know what it feels like to hit a plateau, to freeze when speaking, to confuse tenses, to feel insecure about pronunciation. They're living proof that fluency is achievable. Students need that proof. Meanwhile, native teachers bring another type of strength: exposure to natural rhythm, authentic idiomatic language, cultural references, instinctive usage patterns, and often a degree of linguistic confidence that can lower students' anxiety. Two identities, both valid, both powerful, both limited in different ways, both complementary. But let me make something very clear. Identity is not destiny, it's direction. And a teacher can grow in any direction they choose. A native teacher can become a grammar expert with intentional study. A non native teacher can develop near native fluency with enough exposure and training. A bilingual teacher can merge worlds and build uniquely powerful pedagogical bridges. A multilingual teacher can bring global awareness that no monolingual teacher could replicate. Identity is a craft. But again, the problem is not teachers. The problem is the industry. Most native teachers do not think they're superior. Most non-native teachers do not think they're inferior. But the market keeps reinforcing these hierarchies through salary gaps, recruiting practices, visa restrictions, and branding strategies that reward stereotypes. And this, my fellow colleagues, is where identity becomes political. When an institution tells a highly qualified Indian teacher they must earn less than a newly graduated American teacher, that's about identity. When a talented Filipino teacher is excluded from job posting in the Middle East, that's about identity. When a brilliant Ecuadorian teacher is told parents prefer a Western face for marketing reasons, that's about identity. Or a South American teacher cannot get a work visa because their nationality is not native speaking. That's about identity. When a teacher spends years studying only to be rejected by a system built on marketing rather than merit, that's identity under pressure. And when we ignore these realities, we lose something that is far deeper than fairness. We lose talent. Identity should be a foundation, not a filter. So, where do we go from here? How do we rewrite teacher identity in a way that does justice to the diversity of who we are? We start by recognizing that teaching is not a nationality. Teaching is a professional discipline, a craft, art, science, a calling, and a deeply personal practice, human practice. We start by asking schools to stop hiring based on passports and start hiring based on competences. Pedagogical knowledge, cultural intelligence, empathy, methodology, linguistic awareness, communication skills, experience, professional development, and most importantly, impact. Just to mention a few, I would say. We start by giving teachers permission to own their stories, not hide them. A teacher who grew up speaking Spanish, learned English as a teenager, and now teaches it with passion is not less. They are more aware of the learning process, more equipped to guide students, more relatable, more reflective. A teacher from London or New York or Sydney is not automatically superior. They bring value, yes. They bring authenticity, of course. But authenticity is not ownership. No one owns English anymore. English belongs to the world, A teacher from Africa, Asia, South America, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, who navigated systemic barriers and still become a powerful educator, carries a type of identity forged in resilience. That's not something you can teach in a TESOL course. That's lived experience. Identity is multidimensional. And let's talk about accents now, because accents are one of the biggest identity markers in the ELT world. We don't talk about accents honestly. We pretend accents are neutral, but they're not. Accents carry history, class, colonization, media representation, and cultural capital. Accents shape how we are perceived long before we speak about methodology or lesson design. But here's something we need to say with confidence. Accent is not intelligence. It's not professionalism. It's not competence. Accent is identity. And identity should never be something we apologize for. A Brazilian accent in English tells a story. A Chinese accent in English tells another story. An Egyptian, Chilean, Nigerian, Czech, Korean, Indian, or French accent in English tells a story. These accents represent journeys. And students benefit from hearing multiple accents because the world is multilingual. Most learners will never use English exclusively with American, British, or Australian speakers. They'll use English with Koreans, Mexicans, Saudi Arabians, or Italians, Indonesians, Peruvians, Germans. English is a global negotiation tool, not a native speaker museum piece. So, why are we still pretending native is the gold standard? Identity is not about sounding like someone else. Identity is about sounding like yourself with skill, clarity, confidence, and communicative intelligence. Teachers deserve to own their voices. Let's talk about the teachers who exist in between categories. The third culture. The bilingual teachers. The multicultural teachers. The teachers whose families migrate. The teachers who grew up switching between languages. The teachers who don't fit the boxes. Their identity is fluid. It's layered. It reflects the modern world. A teacher born in India, raised in Canada, trained in the UK, teaching in Dubai. Which category do they belong to? A teacher born in Colombia, raised in Spain, teaching in China. Where do they fit? A teacher born in South Africa, speaking English as one of several first languages. Are they a native speaker? Are they non-native? According to all definitions, even they get miscategorized. The binary collapses under real experience. It was never designed for real people, for people. It was designed for recruitment brochures. Identity is richer than that. If we truly want to empower teachers to step into their full identity, we need to stop asking, "Where are you from?" and start asking, "What do you bring to the table as an educator?" Don't you think so? Teachers bring a heart for learners, methodology shaped by experience, a commitment to mastery, a journey with language that can inspire students, a perspective grounded in culture, resilience, and humanity. Identity is not your accent. It's not your birthplace. It's not your passport. It's the story you carry, the skills you cultivate, and the impact you deliver. Here's the truth I want every teacher to internalize. Your identity is not a limitation. It is a superpower. It's your superpower. The world does not need one type of teacher. The world needs multiple identities in the classroom because students deserve representation, diversity, empathy, and a global lens. Students benefit from hearing English with different accents. They benefit from teachers who know what it feels like to learn a language. They also benefit from teachers who bring cultural context. Students benefit from teachers who've walked different paths into the profession. So identity shapes pedagogy in beautiful ways. A teacher from Mexico might teach with warmth and storytelling. One from Japan might teach with structure and precision. A teacher from Ghana might teach with rhythm, participation, and call and response energy. A teacher from Russia might bring analytical depth. Or a teacher from Brazil might bring musicality and expressiveness. A teacher from China might bring discipline and continuity. A teacher from the US might bring humor and informality. A teacher from Egypt might bring rich narratives and negotiation skills. Identity enriches education when we let it. In the end, the most important identity a teacher carries is not native or non-native. It's something far deeper. I am here because I believe in the power of learning. I'm here because language changed my life. I am here because knowledge is liberation. I am here because every student deserves a voice. Teacher identity is not a category, it is a mission. And as long as your mission is intact, your identity will hold its ground in any classroom, any country, any system, or any challenge. And before I close this episode, I want to speak directly to every teacher listening. If you've ever felt judged for your accent, or been rejected because of your nationality, question whether you belong in this profession, or ever felt underestimated, felt invisible, or felt you had to work twice as hard to prove yourself, let me tell you something clearly. You are enough, capable, qualified. You belong here. You are part of the global story of education, and the world needs your voice, not a modified version of it. Own your story. Own your sound, journey, growth, and identity. Because the future of language education is not native. It's not non-native. It's not binary. It's global, multilingual, intersectional. And you are part of that future. Until next time, keep teaching with authenticity, with courage, and with the identity that makes you uniquely powerful.